Hey, folks, welcome to the Redneck Country Podcast. You are on with Real Redneck Todd Millard. And, of course, we've got the almost guy, Bill Thom. Real Redneck Bill, are you there?
I am here. And as always, it's a beautiful night for a podcast.
Is it a beautiful night for a podcast? I haven't even been outside yet. I'm going to take your word for that.
I'm outside. Pretty close to it. Anyways, I'm out of the wind, but I'm out here.
I'm outside.
Yeah,
It's just
pretty close.
the doghouse. That's where I live.
That's how I roll. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
Oh, and of course, sitting beside me, my father, the patriarch of Redneck Country, Real Redneck Don Millard. Dad, is your mic hot?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is tonight.
Ooh,
So
we can hear 'em good.
Right. So I'm excited for tonight because we are going back to our grassroots, to how we started this podcast. We might have lost a little bit of focus somewhere along the lines, but not really. We brought some guests on and it was a good time, but now we're going back because we started this podcast, Bill, and correct me where I'm wrong. It's kind of turned into therapy, but we started this with how did we learn to hunt? By the old boys sharing stories at hunt camp and us picking up on just listening and going, oh, so when you're in the tree stand or you're in the duck blind, you're like,
Yep,
oh,
that's right.
I remember him saying this. I got to watch and keep an eye for this or do that. And so we kind of were like, you know what? Let's go back to that. And I'm pumped because it's going to be, I'm going to say
gonna be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm really excited. I'll save it. But we're back to our roots of sitting around the campfire, unedited, sharing stories and just letting it fly. So before we get into that, though, we always got to start with, Bill, what did you do this week?
I had a great week, actually. On the podcast last week, I talked about getting a trail pass for the snowmobile, local snowmobile club here.
Yes, you did.
And yeah, I broke down and I got one. And then my machine broke down on the Sunday.
Yeah. You broke down and bought a pass, or you broke down your machine?
Yeah, no, it was great. I had a great day on Saturday. I bought the pass on Friday, full intent, got all my licenses and insurance is all up to date, and bought the trail pass. Unfortunately, our local ski club here, they just announced a little while ago that they're shutting down for all seasons passes for the winter. So we are seasons members at Snow Valley, which is a local family-owned company or ski hill. It's great. It meets our needs. We're not super slalom downhill skiers. I actually snowboard. So
are you a little old for snowboarding?
Yeah, I go back to my roots. I mean, the gray and the beard is kind of, holding me back a bit.
See, I had this conversation earlier today with somebody that said, Todd, have you always had those earrings? And I'm like, I have. And now I am cognizant because I used to look at dudes that I considered older and be like, man, that dude is way too old for earrings. And so I said to the person, I really don't know if I should be taking them out yet because I used to chirp the people in my head. I wouldn't say it to them because, I can run fast, but yeah, I wouldn't say it directly there. But I'm thinking, why are you wearing, what do you got to prove at your age that you're wearing earrings? And now here, I've still got mine in. So I consider you snowboarding.
Yeah, well, I got nothing to prove. I am a low and slow type guy. I don't need to go for speed. I go out there to get up and down the hill. I enjoy it. It's a good workout. My son does all the park stuff and jumping and
does he do that, Jazz?
Trails and stuff. Yeah,
I can hang with your son.
Yeah, well, you could try, but you're old too. So, but we enjoy it. The Snow Valley is not like a BC hill or nothing, but I love it. And
how long have you snowboarded for?
3 years. 3 years now. I used to ski long time ago when I was in high school and stuff, and in a lot better shape.
I'm intrigued because I didn't know this. So which is really rare. But so tell me something. How did you start? Did you go down the Kitty Hill? Because I got a story I can relate on snowboarding. But how did you get rolling? And did it hurt?
Well, it hurt a lot. I didn't know what I didn't know. So
no,
I went
coming from a bull rider. That hurt a lot.
Yeah. I knew what I was getting into with bull riding. This one was self-induced. You go up the Kitty Hill and you try to stop and hold your balance.
You can't do it. You don't got enough speed.
No, that's it. It wasn't until I got on the bigger hills and I got a little bit of momentum and speed and started to link turns together and stuff. And to be honest with you, I got a guy I work with that sold me his board and setup, and that made all the difference in the world. getting a setup that was consistent, because I was renting equipment up till then.
See,
and getting
really?
one that fit.
And that mattered?
I'm good. Our hill is good. I've been on a few bigger hills now too. And I've first year was tough, but the second and third year, actually this is year number 4, but the first year was rough. The second year I got better. Third year I can go on anything now and feel comfortable and confident about doing it. So I love it. Like I said, I don't need to go fast, but I just need to keep going. And I put my music on, and it's something you can do by yourself. You get on the chairlift with my son to go up, and he goes left, I go right, and we just kind of have a good evening. And the hill is only 17 minutes from home, so it's easy to get there. And yeah, so
right
anyways, that was that.
That's awesome. I'm more of a toboggan guy now, but carry on.
But then the other thing I did too, which I'm going to talk about, then we'll get into the other week, was I made the best chicken I've ever had in my entire life. I don't know if I sent you pictures of that.
The best chicken?
Oh,
you did. Incredible. It was in an egg barbecue grilly thing, which I'm assuming.
Egg barbecue?
Was
That's
it
my
not?
Weber.
The Weber, yeah. So I knew it was a Weber.
Don't swear at me.
Was egg a brand name?
Yeah, it is.
Well, it looked
Weber,
like an egg.
No, it's my Weber barbecue, and I got for Christmas an insert for the barbecue that I can cook chicken on, and it was phenomenal.
Insert rotisserie, or I don't think so. It was sitting. I'm trying to remember because
it was basically. I know
you did send me a picture, and I blank it out.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. It's me. You blank it out. But the insert on that is like, it's got a beer can style. So you put
I gotcha.
your beer can in the middle. But I don't drink. I'm not drinking right now with losing a little bit of weight. And I had Pepsi in the house from before. I had one can left, and I put that Pepsi can on the inside instead of a beer can. And I tell you, with the rub, a little bit of brown sugar, paprika, onion powder, and olive oil, it was the best, juiciest chicken I've ever had, bar none. And
I'm game. I'm doing it. I'm doing it this weekend. Send me the recipe.
Wood chips for the smoke. On that.
See, I got to get my smoker out.
Oh, you don't have to if you got a Weber. So just saying. But the family loved it, and the only problem was the chicken wasn't big enough, because I could have had more. There was no leftovers, and I highly recommend if you get an opportunity to do a chicken on a charcoal barbecue. It's phenomenal.
Chicken on a charcoal Dad, you got a charcoal barbecue at home?
I do. Yep, that's the only way we used to barbecue.
I tell you what, I'll supply the can of Pepsi and the chicken.
In fact, we used to use the hibachi, so you could move the grates up and down as the coals got hotter or cooler, and that's the way we barbecued our chicken.
That's just a fun word
delicious.
to say. Hibachi.
We are going back to our roots tonight.
Right. Can you smell the nostalgia in the air?
That was the only way we barbecued, and we
salsa.
did chicken, everything. Oh yeah, it was delicious.
Hibachi.
Well, there you go. So that's me.
So that's what you did this week.
Yeah, what'd you get up to tonight?
Oh, dude, nothing at all, other than working out new diet and work. Work's been insanity. Yeah. We doing some projects and stuff like that, so I just haven't had any time at all. It's just been nonstop. But I'm still on my new diet plan of eating some more, and I'm starting to adopt to it a little bit better now. I think I'm doing all right. I'm now become.
Are you up or down?
I'm not trying to lose or gain. Well, I'm trying to gain, right? It's bulk is what this is, to put on muscle, but it's clean bulk. So that's the problem that I struggle with, because I'm the dude that every night I got chocolate bars on my nightstand and chips beside my nightstand, and that's my bedtime snack. I'm watching TV.
You sound like my brother.
And I tell you what, and don't tell him that. He messaged me this week.
And I can attest to that, because the wrappers are knee deep.
So the hardest struggle is because I guess I do have a fast metabolism. I've never been overweight. It's just, and I work out a lot, like Monday through Friday, but now I'm working out 6 days instead of 5 days, and I'm supersetting and all that. Anybody who works out knows what I'm talking about. Anybody that doesn't care. And I get that. So, but it's the cutting out of the junk food and now I'm eating, it's stuff but I'm becoming a connoisseur in the kitchen. So last night, this is the craziest freaking thing. I was a little bit irritated and it all works out. It all works out, folks. It's the journey. It's not the end. It's not the destination. It's the journey to get there. So
it had to work out. He ran out of dishes.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised.
I got done work. The wife in the morning had put out, they were going to have spaghetti. I can't have spaghetti. I have a carb load day. It is not yesterday. So I can't put out, I'm not having spaghetti. I have to have.
You can't have like whole wheat gluten-free pasta?
Once a week. I got a personal trainer. He tells me when to eat, what to eat, how to eat. 5 times a day.
I won't get in depth on that.
Yeah. Like I'm eating every 3 hours, and it's mostly like wholesome, like chicken and then like greens. Like I'm eating spinach looking leaves.
I
or
have
something
a hard
like
time believing he listens to anybody.
So well, when I pay you to talk to me, I guess that's what I'm doing. So anyway, so Jen puts out ground beef for them to thaw for their spaghetti, and I've got ground turkey. That I like, who grounds turkey? But anyway, I got ground turkey. So I've got to cook. Now the ground turkey, it's not spaghetti. It's not going on noodles. I'm literally making a patty, frying it in a pan, and then eating it with like minimal spices. And so like, yeehaw. But I mean, it's a lot of food. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of a ground turkey that I got to eat. And I just look at this food because I just ate 3 hours ago, and I'm like trying to shove it in my gullet. So I get done work. I fire downstairs to work out. The food's up there. It's defrosting on the counter since this morning. And so my daughter that has her friend over, and so they're sitting there watching TV and that, and then she decides, oh, you know what? Or her mother texts her hey, can you start the meat? So she decides that she's got to get the meat going. I come upstairs from working out, and now I've got to start my supper alongside them cooking their supper, which is really weird because I've never, ever, ever, as much as I sound like a Neanderthal, I've never really cooked. Jen's a good cook. She's always just cooked. So I'm the provider. She cooks it. So anyway, now I've got to prepare it. For the last week and a half, I've been preparing beside her in the kitchen. So I got to go. Well, I come up and she's like, Megan cooked your turkey with our hamburger. And so I've kind of sorted it out. And I think that because it's a lighter color. So now here I am. I didn't get time to put spices in it. Anything flavorful. It is raw, not raw, but it is just cooked turkey. Like hamburger, but turkey. And I'm like, yep. How am I I can't eat this when it's got spices and stuff that's going to make it taste somewhat good on a good day. How am I going to eat this bland? So my trainer had sent me a huge recipe book that I could substitute his menu for anything in this thing. So I get page 12's turkey, ground turkey. I get to ground turkey and it's this taco. Now, here's where I'm out of my element and I'm not a fan. Avocado. I got to mix that up with 3 tablespoons of yogurt. And then I'm squeezing a lime and getting the lime juice in there and making this paste looking stuff. And all 3 of these things are not my wheelhouse. I'm going, what the flip am I doing? I take the ground turkey, throw it back in the pan, put a little bit of water in there to get some juiciness in it, throw some peppers in there, throw some onions in there, saute them, get them simmering. And then I put it in a wrap, whole wheat wrap. And then I plaster this stuff on the whole wheat wrap. And let me tell you, I think Megan did me a huge favor because that was one of the best freaking things I tasted.
See, it's called a happy accident. Oh, we're doing well.
It was, and I'm like, I can eat I ate 3 of those freaking wraps. This is like the first time that I've been able to eat because I've been so full, but it tasted so good. So I went from being very irritated with Megan to like, it all works out. It's all about the journey. It's the journey, not the destination.
So about that.
So yeah, so that's me working out, trying to eat whatever the heck my personal trainer's throwing at me and then working. But I'm almost afraid to ask this now because he kept saying, are we doing the intro like we normally do? Even though we're going back to our roots. And I'm like, yep. So I'm,
for sure.
I'm nervous. So Dad, what did you do this week?
Glenda and I got laid off.
Yes, they did actually.
Monday, we're out of a job. But
hey,
the homeschooling is over. They're back to.
These are the happy accidents I think will work out better for you in the long run.
Better for me, Bill. Better for me.
Before we got laid off, though, they're like towards the end of last week. Before we get laid off, Thursday the news came down. Megan comes screaming downstairs. Did I just hear what I just heard? We're going to school Monday. She's whooping it up. Avery's not so happy. And then Jen texts us and says, oh my gosh.
The lockdown is over.
Yeah, Glenda went, what is going on? These kids are yelling. And I got this text from Jen. And of course, Jen said it was just announced they're going back to school Monday. So my wife's jaw dropped. And so anyway, we got laid off. But before that now, because my wife is right into home and school with Avery.
Oh, she's a pretty good teacher. I'll tell you what. Our dining room never looked like so much like a classroom in its life. It like words taped
and when it comes to reading, now she gets
drapes, and it was pretty good.
In the afternoon, Glenda goes over her words, does all that stuff. But in the afternoon, she gets on with a teacher, and they read a book, and then the teacher asks questions about the book. So we're sitting there listening to Avery read Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Well, then after the story's over, she says, well, by the way, Avery, have you ever eaten porridge? No, I don't think I like porridge. Well, have you ever tried it? Nope. It doesn't look good to me. And so I thought, tomorrow, I'm going to come over. When we come over, I'm going to get a bowl of porridge for Avery for breakfast. So the next morning, I prepare this maple brown sugar bowl of cereal for Avery. And so I said, okay, Avery, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to try this. She says, it's hot. I said, yes, it's best hot. Just blow it. When it's cool enough, you try a taste. What is it? I said, it's porridge. Oh, I don't like porridge. You've never tried it.
Yeah.
Just do me a favor.
It's typical.
My wife is saying, just try it for me, Avery. Just try it for it. It's our favorite cereal. So she tries a bit. Then she tries a bit more. Pretty soon, she's eating it. So she gets on her iPad. No, what is it? She's FaceTiming her mother.
Her iPad. Yep.
And so Jen says, yeah, what do you need? She says, guess what I'm eating, Mom? I have no idea. She says, Grandma and Grandpa got me eating porridge.
See, going back to old school.
Jen,
That's it. Stick to your ribs breakfast.
Yeah.
That's
Jen says, do you like it?
away.
Yeah. She says, yeah, I like it. And so I guess she's had it after that, too, at home without us being here now. I guess she's had some this week. So that was one good accomplishment.
That's good. That's one step away from frozen pancake on your back going to school uphill both ways. So.
Yep. Yep. Now I told you're right, because I used to have it every morning. I remember my mother saying, "What do you want? Porridge again?" Yeah, I love porridge.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did cook I told you about that venison stew, and Megan eaten my venison stew and loved it. So, and I told you off the record, I think that I was going to make some goose stew this week. So I made a great Monday morning. I'm laid off.
Laid off of teaching. And
Sunday.
I'm now home alone, just working me in the computer.
So I thawed out a bag of goose breasts, and I injected them with liquid smoke and red wine, and I put them in a bag with a little more red wine and Montreal Spake Spice, and I left them in the fridge for 24 hours, and I turned them, and then I put them in the Instapot the next morning for 45 minutes, and with beef broth in the Instapot, and a little bit of wine in the Instapot. And so they came out of there. So I sliced them up into thin strips, and I used a pair of cooking scissors, and I snipped them into cubes. And I got a nice big bowl of cooked goose. So then I started making the stew, and I got the carrots and the potatoes and the celery and the thyme and the parsley, and I got a quarter cup of parsley.
Thyme or thyme?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Tell us, Tom, what would that be, Mr. Bill? Tom.
Well, it's spelled with a Y, so I'm not sure. You didn't even know it was spelled with a Y.
Yeah. I do.
But
It's spelling
Either way,
thyme. Thyme.
The
Thyme.
spices are flying.
I say
and
thyme.
Simmering's going. I pour in a can of peas, and I got her all simmered up, and oh, was it good. So I put her in containers, and I've got some nice containers in the freezer, and I brought a couple.
You put one
over.
in Todd's freezer?
I did. I brought them over.
Own?
I brought a couple containers over, and I told
I've got to
Felt
check it
sorry
and
for him,
see.
did you?
I got to see if it matches my menu.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm
anyway.
sure it will. Don't worry.
So I don't think they've tried it yet. I asked Todd, "Did you try it?" And he says, "Well, Megan said you made it for her." So he said I hadn't tried it.
Oh, there you go.
But I'll tell you, Sunday night, I get a text from Jen, my daughter-in-law, and it says, Avery wanted me to remind you that you walk every day at 4:00. So she wants to make sure that you're not late coming over for the walk tomorrow. And I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and I said, Avery expects us to go over at 3:30, or at least me, and walk every day when she gets off the bus at 3:45. And I said, when did Avery become the boss? And my wife said, Avery became the boss a long time ago.
Long time ago.
So now every day at 20 after
You started a new tradition.
I put on my warm clothes, and I walk over. She gets off the bus. She doesn't even come in the house. She just drops her bag, and away we go. We do our walk, and then I walk home. So that's the scoop. So that's what
great.
That's what my week's like.
That's good. Now we're going to switch gears, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited for. Because this is how I've learned to hunt.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you did based on.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've taken it to the next level.
Oh,
but this was the base layer.
Well, here, let me set the stage a little bit. Todd, we were on a call last week, and at the end of it, before we wrapped up, he had another commitment that he had to take. So Don and I got talking, and I tell you, it was podcast gold. And I'm not sure if it was because Todd wasn't on Don. Or
I let you guys talk? Is that what you're saying, Bill?
I'm just saying we were able to have a few stories there. But the stories that you told, Don, were reminded me that we are so different now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if it's in a good way. I think we've overcomplicated things. And I want to go back.
That's what I've been saying. Like deer hunting, we take it too serious. That's why I like turkey hunting.
I don't know if from a seriousness or a complicated standpoint, because I want you to maybe tell the story about how you guys used to goose hunt. And what intrigued me was what you used or what you don't use today or then that we use now. And you were still successful.
Mm-hmm.
On our goose, like our first time goose hunting, like when I started goose hunting or when Dad started goose hunting?
Your dad.
Way back in the day. You're going way back. Well, and that was the intent. I get to sit here now because that's why I gave Dad my good mic and cranked up, gave him the cool mechanical arm and everything, the professional studio setup. So I'm just going to sit back and heckle.
That's fine. That's fine.
Do what I do best.
But I'm closer to the plugs. I can unplug them.
Good deal.
He doesn't even know which one. It's a spaghetti mess.
I know which one's mine, so as long as I don't unplug
I'm watching
mine,
that he doesn't kick something down here with his feet.
Yeah, so let's tell that story again.
Well, yeah, all right. Well, when we started hunting, like my buddy and I, Ron, and we hunted 5 days a week, but we predominantly hunted ducks. You know, you'd see geese, but we had no way. We didn't have goose decoys, and they weren't as thick and as heavy as they are around here now, but we predominantly hunted ducks. But even ducks, we very seldom set up in a pond and decoyed them. We did once in a while if we found them living in a pond or we found them landing in a pond, but normally we'd follow them. Like they'd be living in different reservoirs and things, but clouds of duck. And so we'd get up before daylight and we'd sit where we figured they were going to fly north, west, whatever, and then try to follow them. And be one guy driving like mad, the other guy hanging out the window. And when they come to a field, the first flock that started circling that field, we parked and decided, okay, which end of that field are they going to land in? Because we weren't in there ahead of them. We never even had any thoughts of getting in there ahead of them because we knew the next day they wouldn't be there because we were going to shoot them up. So we typically, more and more would come all the time until the field will be full of ducks. Now, Todd did experience a little bit of this later on.
I did.
But this was long ago before he was even thought of. The ducks typically would cover that field, and the ducks at the front would be feeding across that field. The ducks at the back would be realizing that the food's getting eaten up, so they'd fly to the front. Well, then all of a sudden, the ones that found themselves at the back, they fly to the front.
Like a leapfrog.
Yeah, and they just keep leapfrogging
And they
themselves.
look like they're rolling like a wave across that field.
Yeah, Todd has experienced that.
It's something.
We did that a couple of times with him.
Like thousands. It's insane.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah, but
that's incredible.
So anyway, we'd figure out which way they were coming. When they got to the end of that field, they got the fence, the road, whatever, they'd get up and fly around to the other end of the field and do it again. So when they did that, we would crawl or run as we could, and when they were in the air, we'd run into that field, and when they made the circle to come back in, we'd get down and we'd start crawling towards them.
Now, predecess that with, back in the day, you could do this a lot easier because it wasn't like permission crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
if it wasn't signed,
about too, right?
yeah, like if it wasn't signed, you could go. Like, and farmers just let you go, right? Like it was,
they had no issues at all.
It was a gentleman's.
We were driving by this cornfield once, and the farmer had it half picked, and there was 2 or 3 tractors pulling combines. They didn't drive them; they pulled them, and they were going through the corn, and the ducks were landing where they'd already picked it. Well, we never even thought twice. We just went through the fence and snuck along the standing corn, waved at the guy with the tractor. We're carrying our shotguns. We're in commo. And we got into some uncut corn and where the ducks were going to feed by. and we shot ducks. And they never stopped. They never stopped working. They just waved at us. We picked up our ducks and left. It was awesome.
Is it because you knew a lot of people, or that's just the way it was?
We knew nobody. Like, we covered a lot of territory. I'll bet we covered probably 40 square miles, where we were driving every day, all the time. And
yeah, it was before overpopulation, a bunch of jerks, right? I use the same.
There were no suburbs.
Well, and I use the same analogy all the time, that I say, if you got 100 people and 10% of those people are jerks, you got 10 people. Now, if you got 100,000 people and 10% of those people are jerks, you got a lot more people. And so now the farmers have had to deal with that 10% a lot more now, just because of overpopulation. It's not like there's any more jerks. It's based on percentage per capita, but there's more jerks because the population's growing and you 10% of jerks.
The farmers don't want to have to deal with that now.
And then you got legalities, and people get sue crazy, and lawyers capitalize. And if any lawyer listens, I apologize. Not all, but over the past in the U.S. and everything else, it's just, you never know. Right. And now you sprain an ankle, you're suing the world all of a sudden. Right. And it's like, you were trespassing. Yeah, I'm still suing you.
But 5 days a week we did this, and we'd be in a different field every day, a different part of the country every day, depending on where the ducks took us. And so we would crawl into the field and just lay with our guns on our shoulders, but out in front of us, we'd be laying, and then we'd watch for them to come, like in corn stubble. And more than once.
No burlap or nothing on it. Just laying there.
Just laying there waiting. And then as they got closer, then you could start to see the ducks coming up a little bit. So you knew, okay, those ducks just flew up a little bit and they're in front of that flock. And then as they got closer and closer, it looked like the ducks were higher, but it was because they were closer now. And all of a sudden, 10 feet in front of you, here's green heads. And the chuckle, that feeding chuckle, oh my gosh. That feeding chuckle was just prevalent, just noise in your ears. And they were like 10 feet in front of you, chuckling, and green heads. And the green heads going back and forth, like right there. You couldn't see the body because they're in the stubble, but green heads. So we knew, sit up. So one of us just say, sit up. And as you sat up on your knees or whatever, oh my gosh, the ducks at the front, their heads went up, their eyes got big, and the whole flock in the air. And then we just started shooting ducks.
With lead.
Yeah, with lead.
Yeah.
And
lead.
So 2 things, with lead and when he could actually sit up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When I could get up on my knees from a prone position.
In a timely manner.
Yeah.
When the ducks were still within 1,000 yards.
And that's the way we hunted ducks. And we'd come home lots of times with our limited ducks. And, maybe we'd only come home with 6 or 7 because that particular day that they left, or we never found another field. But that's what we did. I remember we're out driving around and it's getting mid-morning, and we finally saw a pretty good flock of ducks circling this field, and they were going down into this field, and we watched them for a minute. And what they were doing were leaving that field, flying to the west of it, making a big circle over this grassy field, and circling this great big maple tree, and coming in beside the maple tree and back into the field again. So Ron says, we got to get to the other side of that field, crawl through it, and get to that maple tree on the fence row, because they're circling that maple tree and coming in to start their feed every time. Then they fed across and came back again. So that's what we did. We raced. They made the circle, went in. Okay, we got across that field. Now we got to get under this little wire fence, which was actually one of those electric fences that keep cattle and stuff in. And Ron says, okay, climb under this and don't touch that fence. So we're going through. All of a sudden, my gun barrel touched that fence. Oh, my Lord. Like it, unbelievable.
It's starting all to make sense now.
He heard the hum. He said, you touched the fence? My gun did. So anyway, we got through it.
It'll rattle your teeth.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Did it ever. So we get through. We get up to the tree. Now we're sitting in the fence row. The ducks have gone the far side of the field. They've lifted. They come flying west. They're probably about 100 yards to the right of us as they come across the field towards us, because we're facing the way they're flying now. They go out They leave over that field. They go out over that field we just called through, make the turn. And as they make the turn, set their wings, they're starting to come down, and they're just going to clear the fence row that we're sitting in to land back in that field. And Ron yelled, "Take them." And I stood up, and here's this beautiful, great big greenhead mallard making that turn with his wings set. He's about 20 yards up in the air, and he's about 30 yards out. And I swing on him, and I pull the trigger. And right in behind him, 10 yards behind him, is this hen swinging and coming down in behind him. And they both fell. I got them both.
1-2.
Yeah, I got them both.
One shot got them both.
One shot got them both. And I had by this time I had a Model 12, I had my Model 12, Winchester Model 12 pump. And I love that gun. And
Still got it?
Yeah, I still got it. I love it. And so then I swung on another nice big green head and dropped it. And then by this time, they flared, and they're right over my head, and I swung on another one and dropped it. Well, Ron, he had an over and under. He had a really expensive over and under. And so I looked over at him. I said, "Did you get any?" He says, "I got a great big mallard." He says, "But I had to hit it twice." "How did you do?" I said, "I got 4. He said, "You got 4? Yeah, I got 4. But this grassy field, it was almost to your waist. I said, "But I got them marked. If I move, I'm going to lose the mark, like with things in the background, trees, posts." And I said, "You're going to have to walk out here, and I'm going to have to show you the general area, or we're not going to find them in this high stuff." So he started out, and I said, "Okay, should be one right out here in front of me about 10 yards. Yep, pick that one up." Now I said, "Just a little bit to the left." "Yep. Now just keep walking straight. Right about there, you should be fine." So he milled around there for about 30 seconds or so. Yep, I got it. Okay, now just move back more to the right and go straight back, and you should find a drake and a hen 10 yards apart. That took him a little longer, but I put him in the area, and he found them. So we came home with 5 ducks.
I'm picturing Dad guiding a dog, but really it's his buddy Ron.
Yeah, it's my
but
buddy.
because I could totally relate. Because then when I started hunting, now I know where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to experience some of that leapfrog type.
I'll tell you what, we used to hunt a different area than we do now, and we talk about going back there, but we used to get up and we used to drive. I don't want to give away too much info, but yeah, because we still talk about going back. And so we had a couple farmers, and we used to take, I think I shared on a podcast.
Now, this is in days of permission now.
Yeah,
fences, signs, you had to make sure you had permission. 20
years ago now, right? So we're back into, we're using steel and everything else. Like it is when I started hunting. So yeah, we had a couple families that one of the kids of the families, he wanted to get into hunting, but none of the family hunted, but they owned a bunch of farms. So I think I've shared before that we said he can come with us anytime. Well, then he started finding fields all over the place. My uncle's field, and there's geese going in it. Come on up, guys. And so we'd go pick them up, set up, smash some geese. It was awesome. We had a really good standing. And I shared this last year, I think, on one of our podcasts. And Scotty noted that last year, he heard the podcast or something, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, this is me. I'm him, and I still hunt," which was kind of cool. So he's now
brings it all around.
Yeah, he's now hunting. He's got his license. He's a goose hunter, and has invited us up again. So which is wicked. And so, but we were up in that area. There's a bunch of conservation areas around. We're holding a lot of ducks. Don't get a lot of that around where we are here. And so we were out. We were goose hunting, and it set up. And smashed a bunch of geese, and we seen all these ducks going, and filling a field one over. Went and got permission in that field, and then I had no idea. I'd not hunted ducks. We were getting ducks quite a bit when we were goose hunting, but it would be because we set up our decoys, our goose decoys, in the morning, in the dark, and before the geese come in, the ducks would come in. And typically, if there's a lot of ducks in the area, they're going to feed in the same field as the geese. So you get ready for the ducks first thing. After you hammer the ducks, in come the geese. And there's never as many ducks now as there are geese, because it's just the goose population's insanity, right? It's reversed from when Dad started hunting way back in those days. So this, for me, seeing this tornado of ducks going was absolutely phenomenal. We are going to get permission in that field. So we did. We went and got permission in that field, and I have no idea what we're doing. Dad, did we even set decoys up? I don't think we did.
No, we didn't.
We just went in
saw
and
them.
laid down when we got permission, and we were in there ahead of them. And then here comes the tornado, and sure enough, we're laying there, and they're feeding over each other, just leapfrogging right to you. And once they get to you, you just jumped up and started dropping them. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal.
And I remember that hunt because that was,
You dropped a 70-yard duck because I looked at you and I'm going, we're dropping them. Boom, boom, boom. I'm out of shells. Shot 3. Ducks are falling from the sky. And then it's like Dad's still lining up on one. Like he's got a shot left. And I'm like, too far. Like, what are you doing?
It was a pintail. It was the first pintail I'd ever shot.
It literally took me the time to say, what are you doing for that duck to drop? And I paced it off over 70 yards. How did you hit that? And he flipped me the haul, and he had didn't tell me, and he had bought heavy shot and had that heavy shot shell in there. And that sucker, I paced it. I think
in the hole sometime.
Well, I think I swear it was my memory, but I think it was 74 paces for me to pick that duck up, and it was deader than a doornail when he hit it in the air. And I'm like, holy Joe, that was stupid nuts. But yeah, it is absolutely phenomenal when those ducks are like that.
What I'm picturing too, unfortunately, with those hunts is you're one and done though.
You are. You for the most part.
You wouldn't get very many opportunities where they would circle back around and you get a second.
No, because you're waiting
it.
for them to feed to you, right? You're not where they're just going to drop in. I mean, if they were coming in like geese, where they're coming in families of 5 and 10, but these guys, they're coming in they're 1,000 line. It's a line coming out of the conservation areas and the ponds and that they're in. They're coming out in one big giant line, like a tornado. It looks like a tornado when they're coming into that field and dropping in. So it's literally, you got one opportunity because that's every duck in the area in one shot. And they will circle before dropping into feed. And that gives enough time for all the other ducks, if there are little flocks, to join that big flock. And so you don't got a shot.
You're doing that every morning. We're doing that 5 days a week. Ron and I are doing that every morning. And we shoot that big flock. That's it. It's over. Okay, so now what do? Well, I had a county map of all them, and you can still get them, I think, county maps, and they're awesome.
It's called Google.
Well, maybe it is now. We used to go to the county and get them, and had every pond, dirt road, everything, every intersection, and we'd follow the stream. So, okay, we'd find where this stream crossed this road, but not too far away. It crossed the other road 90 degrees to this one. So you knew that you weren't walking 10 miles to get to the other road. But if you followed that stream, when you got to the road, you just walked up to the corner and back to your car. So we'd look for those spots and just start following streams. And there was 2 or 3 in that area where ducks would go to rest in the afternoon. And in fact, sometimes they spend the night. And so after we shot that big bunch, we'd walk that stream. And I remember one day, I mean, it's cold. This is December, snow on the ground, easy to find the ducks when they're down. And so we're walking along this stream, and then there's this nice wide spot, and it's full of mallards and blacks. And Ron says to me, oh, look at the blacks in there. Okay, how close can we get? So we get in there, and we jump this puddle on this stream, and up the ducks go. And now this was earlier, before I had my Model 12, I used to shoot an old L.C. Smith double that was just deadly. That sucker.
I'm looking for one, by the way, if anybody listening to this has one.
I sold it. I wished I'd never had, but I traded it in to get the Winchester Model 12.
That's why I never sell a gun.
Yeah, I
kick myself. I guarantee I would.
Don't say that, Bill. I just sold one.
Well, back then, it was the only way I was going to get the Model 12, and I used it for trap too. So, but anyway, that's what I had, and Ron had an over and under. So when they went up, and we fired at them, we got 2 or 3 with one shot, or maybe 4, like because they were bunched up. And then this great big black. And what you tried to do was shoot the ones that flared up on this side of the creek, because remember, it wasn't froze solid, but it was cold. You know, it was cold.
It was a strategic shot.
Yeah.
Else you were swimming.
Well, this great big black got up, and I couldn't resist. And I went, oh, look at that black. And I dropped that black on the other side of the creek. And Ron says, I ain't crossing that creek. I said, well, and you know, back then, in fact, still now, I don't mind the cold. I still do a lot of walking in this cold weather, but I didn't mind it. I just waded that creek. It was over my knees, thigh deep. I waded that creek, and I picked that duck up, and I waded back. And I can remember kneeling for the picture. And we took the picture right there. Ron took a picture of me. I took a picture of him in the snow on the side of the creek. And I couldn't stand up because my pants had froze solid and I had to break the ice to get them to move. And I still have that picture. And then I had to walk all the way out to the truck with those frozen pants, but it never bothered me. We just did it. And then I'll tell you.
That's old school tough, Todd.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to do that now.
I got some stories, my man. When we go, I'm the dog.
But, you know,
That's
also, we had this one pond we kept for Saturday. It wasn't a pond, really. It was a flooded cornfield. And we saw the ducks going in it, and it was standing corn. And we thought, is it cut in the middle? Is there a field in there that's cut? So, of course, we travel in and we bump right into this great big flooded area where some of the corn around the edges of this water hole has fallen over. Some of it's stunted. And in the middle, it's hardly grown at all. And it's just a big flooded pool in the middle of this corn. Well, this was
gold
before,
mine right there.
This was before either one of us had any kids. And so within the next Saturday, we dragged a bunch of decoys and carried a pail each because we sit on the pail because it was wet and watery in there. So we carried a pail. That also helped you carry the ducks out. And a bag of decoys over our backs. And we crossed the fields and got into this flooded cornfield. And we sat up. And if there was ducks, and they were living in there, so we'd scare them out. And then as they come back, we'd shoot our limit and leave. So we just kept that pond for Saturday when there was more hunters around, and not like there is today, not the competition you have today, but there was a few guys around. But Saturday, that was our duck pond. So the next we hunted it for 2 or 3 Saturdays. We were doing pretty good, and then we went out this one Saturday, nothing in it. Well, do you think anything's going to come? Don't know, but we had nothing else planned, so we set the pails down, sat on the pails. We threw a few decoys out into the water, and we sat there, and it was daylight. It got to be 7:30, then it got to be 8, it got to be 20 after 8. So it doesn't look like there's anything going to come. All of a sudden, Ron looked out. He says, look at that. And here comes the tornado. And I'm telling you, it was a cloud of ducks like a snake, narrow at one end and a mile wide at the other end. Like it was just snaking through the air, this big cloud of ducks. I said, oh, I know where that's coming from. I knew the pond it was coming from, where they were living. I said, if they're coming here, they're coming late. So anyway, they came. Next thing you know, that thin part of that snake, that tornado, started to come down, and they started landing. And we never moved. We held our breath until that whole great cloud was in that water. You couldn't
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
You couldn't wedge another duck in there with a shoehorn. I mean, they were in there, and the chuckling and the quacking was deafening. And of course, our eyes are just as big around as plates. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and we had 4 shots. This is with the L.C. Smith and his over and under. He says, God, and we had Ron's dog Mitzi, and she's got a low whine, and she's good. She knew if we were hunting
Weimaraner.
ducks. Yeah.
No, Weimaraner.
German Weimaraner. And if we were hunting pheasants or anything, she would range in front of us, and she was deaf. So she'd go a little ways and look, go a little ways and look. She always kept you in sight, so you didn't have to worry about her going too far ahead of you. But if we were hunting ducks and he motioned her behind, she just hung behind. Well, you could tell where the ducks were from where she'd sit there and watch them ducks, and you could tell where they were. So we just kept our heads down, and she was letting us know that they're coming in.
You watched her head watching the ducks.
Yeah. Well, then next thing you know, they're in eyesight, and they're dropping in. So I said, ready? He's ready. So we just stood up off the pails, and you would not believe the sound of those wings going up in that cloud. We took 4. We picked out ducks. We knew enough to pick out ducks, but you couldn't help but hit more. And when the cloud cleared, we had our limit with 4 shots. And Mitzi was gone. She was out there. Ron and I went out, and we're picking up ducks, and we're looking for cripples, making sure that we don't want to lose any cripples or anything. And he says, where the heck is Mitzi? And we could hear her whining on the other side of the pond. So Ron hustled across, and there she was. She had 2 in her mouth and her paw on one, whining for Ron to come get them so she could chase some more. But we ended up with our limit with 4 shots. What a smart dog. Yeah. And no training, no. She just did it. That was awesome. Yeah.
That's rare. You don't get Todd to do that.
But see, you don't.
Even with training.
But the
money talks, Bill.
The fact that we just went in every Saturday, we just went there, we just shot that pond, and the clouds of ducks that were around, and Todd got to experience that a little bit in 2002. That's when he started hunting.
In 2002.
And I remember Todd's first. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is just incredible to me that there was nothing besides a shotgun and some shells and right place at the right time. Like you didn't have to have and I don't knock anybody who's got it, like the big spread and the calls and the layout.
You knocking us, Bill? Like, what are you saying? We wasted our money?
Well, based on what your dad's showing here,
it was all his money. I'm okay with it. Keep going.
And I remember buying my first feeding chuckle call. I couldn't, because I picked it up and I shook it and went, holy mackerel, that sounds just like the ducks we've been hearing. And I can remember.
It was a PS Old.
PS Old.
Right?
PS Old. I have the chuckle wasn't.
I think it was.
I don't know. It might have been. But my two favorite duck calls were a PS Old goose and a PS Old duck. And I found two of them, a pair of them, brand new at a yard sale a few years ago. So I bought them both just for nostalgia. Even though I still have my old ones, these are brand new, never been used. So I bought them anyway at this yard sale. But I can remember that chuckle. But that day in that pond, we never had to call. They just came right in. But lots of times that chuckle.
If you're where they're going to be, you're good to go.
But that chuckle sealed the deal on a lot of ducks when we first started using it. I couldn't believe how good that chuckle worked. And they came in with no decoys. They just came right into the sound of the field.
You know what? We smash a lot of geese in fields. And Bill, you've been with us. You've experienced it.
Yep, absolutely.
But my favorite is ducks on a pond.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that you set up just a few decoys on the edge of a pond. They're going to the pond. You hide in the ragweed or whatever's there, and when they come, it is just there's nothing. There's nothing better.
You heard me. You heard us
talk.
You heard us talk about Todd's first goose hunt, laying in that field. It was a farmer.
That was a while ago. Yeah. We had nothing. We had absolutely nothing. We were just laying in a field.
That was September 2002. That same year, September 28th, 2002, was the opening of duck season.
That's the pond we hit right up the road from there, right?
And just up the road from there, I said to Todd, there's ducks going in there, so we're going to hit that pond. And Rick, we were all camped. We had a seasonal trailer at...
careful, you're going to give away our spots. We had a seasonal trailer at
this campground, which I was going to say. And so packed up Friday night, I took a bunch of duck decoys and our guns and carted them up. We got up at 4:00 on Saturday morning at the park. My son-in-law was with us. And so we drove down in, and this was his first duck hunt. This is Todd's first duck hunt. And we got in there in the dark.
The first thing we learned really quick was the light guy is the guy that puts the decoys out because the other two sink in the mud and get stuck. And at 4:30 in the morning, when your father's up to his waist stuck in mud and your 6'7", 285-pound brother-in-law is trying to horse him out, you just ignore and keep putting out decoys.
I went in there. It's not that deep, but the bottom was about 2 feet of muck. And I remember thinking I wasn't going to get out of there. I did wait it a couple times.
It looked like Hasselhoff there was saving.
I'd never do it now. But anyway, we set up. And it got light, and the ducks started coming. And I can remember my daughter, they had some place to be early morning or early afternoon, whatever. They had some place to be. And she says, you have Rick home here or back to the trailer at 10:30. And I said, well, that might be a little early. She says, 10:30 or Rick's not going. I need him back here. We were committed. I don't know if it was a wedding, whatever it was. He has to be back here at 10:30. So you promised me. And I said, well, this looks like a really good hunt. So I'll make the promise. Yeah, he'll be home. Don't disappoint me, Dad. Get him back here at 10:30 because Rick won't bother. And I need him back here at 10:30. And so that's
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, we were less than a half an hour from the trailer park. I know that. And so I remember at 10:00, we were one duck short of a limit. And so we got to pack up. It's 10:00. I got to have you back there.
I like this story.
Got a half an hour.
I'm grinning.
And Well, anyway.
I know where this is going now.
Well, no, I'm not. You're going to finish it. I'm just going to tell you a little bit. Anyway, we're packing up. So we put our guns down, and we get stuck in there trying to pick these decoys up. And Todd is the one that's the furthest out in the middle of the water without a gun, picking up these decoys because he's the lightest. And Rick is still taken down. We had this little makeshift kind of blind put up
just
there.
Stood up in front of us.
And it's swampy where we're standing even. Like we're standing in water when we're shooting. And without saying a word, all of a sudden, Rick made a run for his gun and brought his gun up, and he fired in a goose fowl. And that's when Todd and I looked up. There was 5 geese trying to come in over our heads from behind us, and Rick was the only one that saw them and the only one close enough to grab a gun. And so he managed to scratch a goose down, and I got it in my book, 14 ducks. I keep a log. That's why I know the date. 14 ducks on their first duck hunt and 1 goose. Now, if Todd wants to add any to that story, but we come home. No, it was the
next one. That one, the goose cannonballed me while I was out there. I remember squatting, looking up as Rick's pulling the trigger on this thing. And yeah, it was pretty phenomenal to watch that happen because these geese were stupid. I'm standing in the middle of the friggin' pond.
But they were coming in anyway.
Yeah, I'm picking up decoys. I'm like, what's going on? Look, why is Rick grabbing his gun? And he's aiming over my head. I look up and there's, okay.
Yeah. So Rick got one. So we go back to the trailer park. We got 14 geese and we got 14 ducks, 1 short of our limit, which ticked me off. I figure another half hour, we probably would have got that duck. But
I didn't know Kara put a stipulation on us. Now I have a bone to pick with her.
Anyway, we get back. So we got to take pictures. Rick says, I'm not changing it. We get pictures. So we're standing out on the road in front of the trailer and everybody walking by is looking at us.
Okay. So this is not a typical trailer park. This is probably the most expensive trailer park in Ontario, in southwestern Ontario, if not Ontario. Am I right, Dad?
Yeah.
Like this is highfalutin trailer park. So yeah, it was a sight for sure with all these people.
They'd be really upset with all those feathers going across.
And Mom's having a canary because they're going to know you got guns in your trucks, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we don't care. We got ducks.
We got dinner.
Then that night, Todd says, well, let's go out and shoot some geese. I said, well, we can go and stand in a field, maybe get some flybyers or whatever. Well, down about 5 trailers, this guy come down and he saw the ducks and he says, you guys going out tonight? And then Todd says, well, I want to go see if I get a goose or something. Anyway, this guy says, well, if you get any geese, come get me. I want to know how to clean them. I want to watch you clean them. I want to know how. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So anyway, we do go out and we just go to a field down close to this pond because we saw some geese flying. And I said, it's just going to be flyovers. Like, I don't know where. But
that's what we did at that time. Yeah, this was our first time ever hunting, really.
So we're standing out in the middle of this field.
We had nothing.
Well, actually, we're kind of laying down in this field, and we can hear these geese coming, and they're pretty high. And here's a V of geese coming, and they come directly over us. And Todd says, "Oh, Dad, they're way too high." I said, "Yep, but I'm going to take that lead goose." And Bill, you know that shot I made when you were with me. Well, yes. That's what I did. I stood up, I led that goose, and when he was directly over me, I let him have it, and down he came. And so. Well, we left, and so when we went back, I said, are we going to get this guy for one goose? Todd says, I don't know. Well, it didn't matter. He saw us pull in. He come running down. He said, okay, I want to watch you clean it. So anyway, we showed him how to clean our one goose that night. But anyway, we used to have fun.
Passing it on.
Yeah.
That's I love those stories. I really do. And this is where, like Todd said, it was where we got started with this podcast, is telling the story, sitting around, listening to how things were done and how we do them now. And you said, did we waste money? No. And I know you're joking. No, I know you're joking, right? But I was just going to say, for the evolution of the number of hunters that are out there, the number of setups that are out, you need to adapt or you get run over.
Well, you say that too, but I would almost say at that time, there was a lot of waterfowl hunters at that time too, right? In my opinion, now they maybe didn't have the spinning wings and all of the coffin blinds and everything like that, right? But definitely a lot of waterfowl hunters in the area that had decoys and probably so. My takeaway is if you're just getting into it and you only got 5 decoys, you don't stop going out, like because I'll tell you what, hearing Dad tell these stories and from when he was hunting. But then hearing him tell the stories of my first hunts and those were awesome times. There was nothing that you say like it's more technical now, or it's a lot more. I don't know what the term is, but we take it more seriously. And it has just evolved like a hobby. In golf, you constantly upgrade your golf clubs to get that extra 5 yards on the drive or whatever, right? So you're constantly upgrading and evolving. But, then you take it to, it's never as much fun as when you just started. And now I'm hearing all this and I'm going,
agree with you on that.
We had nothing. That first goose hunt of mine, we had shells. We ran to Canadian Tire, got shells, and then went to this field that the geese were already going into. Asked the farmer, he's like, yeah, you go ahead. Went and laid in there, nothing, no burlap, no laying on our backs. And the geese flying over us, and we were dropping geese like deader than stones. And
having a blast.
And having a hoot, and had nothing, had no decoys. And I mean, we had them come and land, I don't know, 120 yards in front of us because we didn't have decoys. So the ones that flew over us, we nailed them. The ones that landed in front of us, I put a stock on. Dad's sitting there laughing at me like that. That was fun, and right. So to me, it's just to go back to your roots like that. And if anybody's looking at starting out, I know the big facade is I got to pay for an outfitter who's got the decoys, who's got the permission. And I say bull crap. You just go out and ask and find them going into a pond, set up near the pond. Go find them going into a field, set up near the edge of the field. Do whatever you got to do to get out and have, because even getting one goose when you're starting out is a blast. And now we're spoiled, right? Now the spread's so big, the coffin blinds, and I look at it at sometimes and think, man, it's a lot of work. And yeah, when we do it, now it's almost taken some of the fun away. I mean, don't get me wrong. When they're coming in and you've done the work and you're dropping them, it's awesome. But it is a lot of work from back then when it was just like Dad said, we going out tonight? No, you want to go out tonight? Yeah, let's go out tonight. Like, how do you do that when you got 150 decoys to put out?
No. But that's the stress and pressure you put on yourself to have to put those out. And to your point,
well, social media, right? We're going hunting. I got to post pictures to show that Redneck Country knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, I tell you the one of the best times I had, and we'll get into our time limit here. I won't sit to say too much, but was the first time that I ever did it on my own. I got two geese. And that was so rewarding.
Dude, there's nothing more proud of when you're out there by yourself, knock down your own goose. You did that all on your own.
Yeah,
right?
From setting up the decoys, getting up early, getting whatever, all that stuff. And I didn't have much to start off with. And the old stories of sitting there, I'm going to try to, I told you about doing less but being more present at it. It was kind of a focus for 2021 here, and that goes right along the lines. I don't need to go and buy more, or I just need to go out and do it. Get in the field and have some fun.
And you never know what might happen. And my most memorable hunt, like one of my most, I've never forgot it over all the years. I got one duck, and I wasn't even hunting ducks. I was in the woods hunting rabbits and grouse. And we came to the edge of the woods and came to the fence row, and I wasn't with Ron. I can't remember who I was with even, but it wasn't Ron. And I always carried that chuckle shaker thing in my coat. It was in my hunting coat. And so we came to the end of the fence and okay, where do you want to go from here? And I saw this duck flying across the field, and I went, oh, there's a duck. And I just instinctively grabbed that chuckle call. I said, let's see if I can chuckle him. And I grabbed it out of my coat and I started to chuckle. He turned, chuckled some more. And the next thing I know, he set his wings and he's coming right at me, and he's coming down low. Now he's not going to land. He's still about 35 yards in the air and he's flying pretty good, but he came right over us looking for that chuckle, and I dropped him. And the guy with me couldn't believe it. I went, oh, I love this chuckle. I mean, I just fell in love with that chuckle. And I got one duck, and to me that was a trophy. That was important. No pond, no field. It was ragweed. It was a woods, and he came over for a look in the chuckle, and I got a duck. It was incredible. You just never know what might happen.
I'm pumped up now with these stories.
Yeah, see, back to our roots. I love this podcast.
Yeah,
it might be a little selfish, but this is our therapy, folks. I hope everybody else liked it. And we got so many more stories, like insane ones where I'm swimming in goose crap and you name it.
Yeah.
Like we could go on. So I think we keep rolling with this. We do have some guests coming up because we're gonna transition a little bit into some bass fishing and such, but I still think we come back to our roots often and keep this going because this is how I learned listening to Dad's stories.
I keep a hunting log, and I started one in 2002 with Todd in it. I started a brand new log. That's how I know the dates and everything. And 2 years later, we still don't have. I think we had a half a dozen shells. Goose decoy shells.
Yeah, we would just buy each other a few
2 years
for our birthdays,
later,
3 shells for you. And back when Magnum shells were like the hot thing, right? They were like $80, $70.
Oh yeah, even though ducks were the main thing. 2 years later, I got it right in. I got every hunt logged in this log. We shot 46 ducks or 46 geese that year. Todd and I. We shot a total of 46 geese that year. Two years after he started hunting.
With just 6 decoys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And only hitting weekends. Yeah.
Good podcast, gentlemen.
Yeah. Appreciate it. That was awesome. I like it. Back to our roots.
That's it.
All right. Well, next week should be just as much fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
and that'll do
Phil.
it for this week, folks. For the Redneck Country Podcast, I'm Bill, the Almost Guy Tom.
And I'm Todd. Thanks for listening. And folks, if you want to be part of the podcast or you want to give us some feedback or really contact us about anything, feel free to email us at podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Again, that's podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week.